What's up, everybody? And for the final time here across the DraftKings social channels, be it Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, if you want to include them in the mix, this is The Slate. I am Adam Kaufman, along with Matt LaMarca, Jeff Ulrich, and I think legally I have to refer to him as Fred, just to cover ourselves. How are you guys?
Doing great. Yeah, actually, I might get in trouble if I start pressing these buttons here.
Yeah, you probably want to stay away from the buttons. I think we can't sing any. The only song I think we have the legal rights to sing our "Sexy Christmas" by Matt LaMarca because he wrote it. That's about
not anymore. You no longer have those rights.
well, not me. You have the rights. You've got the rights to sing the song.
No, this broadcast no longer has the rights to that.
It's a sad, somber day. It is.
They couldn't afford me anymore.
If you're out there watching, we hope you are, obviously. But if you're not, well, you know.
Too bad for you.
Too bad for you. That would be a shame. This is the final edition of the slate. We have been building it up all weekend and all week long. Not that this is going to be a super special one, just that it is the last one. So make sure that, come Monday, if in fact you come looking for us, you've got Madden Sims and a lot of great other content that DraftKings has for you, but you just will not have this show. So if you have any burning questions, comments, concerns, desires, whatever it may be, throw them in the chat.
Let's get personal. YouTube, I don't want to talk about sports today. I just want to answer questions about myself.
Yeah, this will just be a full-on AMA
and
like, ask me anything, right?
That's my beard on stream.
Well, I have a question about yourself. Yeah. I mean, the first thing, like, how much would someone need to pay you, LaMarca, to get
no amount of money? Literally, there's no amount of money.
There's got to be some amount. I mean, I would do it for like
in that specific tube.
Actually, well, okay. I mean, knowing what you know now, you can't just say that specific tube. But if someone came up with like a similar,
if they were like, listen, do you want to get in an 8-foot tube with 4 other dudes and go to the bottom of the ocean? There's not enough money for me.
Let's just say, hypothetically, nothing that happened. This was a perfectly safe trip. What was the plan? Because I don't know. I have not put in this research. I haven't read these articles. How long were they supposed to be gone if everything went well?
I have no idea. Because I've only read about
not as long as they were.
Well, yeah. Thank you.
Apparently the oxygen that they had and their food
4 days, I think,
ran out on Thursday. Thankfully, they didn't make it there. That would have been pure terror.
Yeah.
But no, Kaufman, I'm being serious.
Like, yeah,
no, for sure.
It's a valid point. Absolutely.
But, if they had water and food and air for up until Thursday, I hope that their trip was planning to be back like Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, just like we're obviously not going to like dwell on this. This is a very serious thing. And obviously, people were severely impacted and families, and our condolences to everybody involved. Just as the notion though, that Jeff brought up that you asked LaMarca about, like just the idea of going into anything that's like the size of an elevator with 4 or 5 other people for 4 days, like claustrophobia for me would set in very, very quickly. I can't think of an amount of money that I would want to do anything in a space that size.
I don't even like airplanes. Like I get claustrophobic on an airplane. I don't fly unless I have to. So I would be like LaMarca. It would have to be an absolutely ridiculous sum of money. Probably.
Is that why we don't see you in Boston enough or ever?
It's one of the reasons. Absolutely.
I'll turn this around before we actually do a little bit of what we're supposed to do, which is sports betting talk. What do you guys have any memories from this show? Like when we did our final Madden sim that so many people were part of. I know the sims are still going, but the final one that we did with commentary, when so much, like everyone who had been involved with it passed through that day, basically, there was so many memories over the course of a year and a half that we were doing upwards of like 2,000 of those broadcasts. Any slate memories that come to mind for you guys?
I mean, I just liked hanging out on Fridays with LaMarca. That was one of my favorites. And, Wednesdays with Emerson, Mondays with Glash. Not going to mention Kaufman.
Sure, I was waiting for it, yeah.
No, I mean, Kaufman, you just got worked in whatever day. But I remember last summer talking about where Jimmy Garoppolo was going to go with Glasheen every Monday for about half an hour. And literally 2 months straight, we just were like, let's think about hypothetical spots where Jimmy Garoppolo could go, and then he just never went anywhere. And it was like, we're just like, yeah, we just wasted a summer talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. Awesome. So
I'll make
Lamar,
mine about myself because
Sure.
that's what I do best.
Uh-huh.
I really last year had one of the best NFL handicap seasons of my life. I don't know if I'll ever have another one that good, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I was able to come on Fridays and give out these picks to the people, you know, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I hope, you know, not just on the Friday shows or the Tuesday shows that I'm on, but on all the different shows, I hope that, you know, we provided value to the betting people and, you know, a little bit to the DFS people.
This has been a space of personal growth for you to where, because I think I probably did it as much as anybody hosting a lot of those shows. But yeah, I mean, I would remind the people regularly, like Tail Lamarca, the guy like can't seem to lose a football game. He's just giving out winning picks after winning picks week after week after week. It became a real staple to the Thursday and Friday shows, Friday, obviously, in particular, finding out what you were on for that weekend. But I think you've learned. Have you put this into practice yet, or are you waiting for football season that you need to get a little more aggressive on the tweeter? You know, put more.
I'm trying
on the Bird app
for sure. I think I'm going to be ramping up, obviously, as we get closer to the season, and there's just more stuff to talk about. You know, you can only talk about futures so much. So yes, I'm going to be more active on Twitter, especially now that I don't have this show to get some of my thoughts out. But, you know, the irony is that next year I'm probably going to go about 33%, and my picks will just be out there living forever on the internet. So
it's okay. That happens. As long as the bankroll finds a way to go up, you don't need to share everything. Keep some stuff to yourself.
This is just a general rule for following people in betting space, though. It's better to just keep following people who are logical and have a good plan / like routine or whatever than just following someone who like was hot for a couple months. So, you know, Marco's a smart guy. I mean, you should probably just follow him on Twitter anyways. And regardless of what he does in the NFL season upcoming.
No, but truly,
like funny stuff too about Grady Dick wearing a giant red flag to the draft last night.
Man looked good. He did
not.
He's
terrible. Really didn't look good at all.
Looked like Machine Gun Kelly.
Terrible.
He's a real social butterfly. If you watch some of his videos that are out there on TikTok and wherever else. No, but it truly in talking about this is true of you guys, it's true of a lot of the people at DraftKings, but it's not true of everybody across the industry. I think we are really, especially with legalization getting more and more prevalent across the country and just more and more states where, you know, betting, be it mobile or retail, is becoming just a part of the daily society. And it's not this like frowned upon illegal backdoor thing that people are trying to hide. You know, people are throwing it in your face now in a good way. Like I love to do it. I talk betting all the time with people. The transparency about it, you know, the more and more you can just own your picks on social media, because social is generally where people go to celebrate the wins, but own the losses. Like, let people know that you're human. You know, it's the people that drive me nuts that either only post when they win or, you know, don't post anything, but then talk about their wins after the fact. Like, get it all out there. Like, these are my picks today, and either they're going to hit and that's great, or they're not. And, you know, you hope that your record, or at least your unit size, stays in the positive. And that, you know, I think that is something that obviously, you know, with what we've been doing, you guys, like all of your stuff is, you can't run from it. It's available on the Sweat. It's available on the Slate. It's available in podcast form. It's out there in video form, so people can look back. They can see what you've been saying. But I think you guys do a pretty good job at it on Twitter as well. So the more of that, the better, because I just think that's something in this business that we're starting to see more of, but there still isn't quite enough of across the industry.
I'm always for a positive unit size.
I know that about you. I do. All right, guys, let's talk betting. If ever there were a good transition to move into tonight's slate on the diamond, let's begin there, and then we'll get to a little bit of NBA draft reaction and stuff a little bit later on. But first and foremost, Lamarca, because I know you've been, just before we came on, sitting there making your picks for tonight. What stands out at you? Everything after day baseball that we've had for days and days tonight, it's all under the lights.
Yep, love Fridays nights. Almost all the action is the evenings for Friday. Get some good slates, lots of opportunities to bet. The one game that really stands out to me above the rest is I love Seattle tonight. Seattle is a team that, their offense is very hit or miss. They had a great showing yesterday versus the Yankees, but they strike out a lot. They don't always put up big numbers, but I do think the one thing that you can count on in this spot is Logan Gilbert. And he hasn't had the greatest season. His ERA is at 4.31, but all of his advanced metrics are about a full run lower than that. He's a good pitcher. On the other side, you've got Kyle Gibson, who is about as mediocre as it gets as a pitcher. His ERA is better than what Gilbert's is at the moment, but all of his advanced metrics are going to be worse. So I prefer the Mariners side here in what's essentially a coin flip game. I think Seattle, you're kind of getting an underpriced starter with Gilbert, in my opinion.
They just smoked the Yankees last night, right?
Yeah,
so their offense has to be feeling pretty good. I was looking at Seattle earlier too, because there's not much. I mean, all my golf stuff is going on, so I usually bet some baseball later in the week now. I have another team I'm looking at, LaMarca. What about Shane Bieber versus Wade Miley? Do you like the Guardians tonight? That's another one I was looking at.
So that's an interesting one. I was looking at this game as well. The Sharps actually kind of are siding with the Brewers. It looks like. I do think that Shane Bieber is just a fascinating pitcher at the moment, right? Like if you look at his numbers this season compared to his Cy Young season, he's a completely different pitcher. When he won the Cy Young, he averaged over 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. This season, he's at 6.5. His fastball velocity is down. He's kind of a mediocre guy at this point. And the Brewers are a great matchup for pitchers. They have the 4th highest strikeout rate against right-handers. So if there is a spot for Bieber to turn it back, this would probably be it. But the fact that the Sharps are kind of leaning towards Milwaukee has me shying away from Cleveland.
Fair enough. Those are the two teams I was looking at, Cleveland and Mariners. So I'll roll with you. I like at the very least, I like the offensive, confidence that Seattle's rolling in with. So
the one game that really interests me that we haven't touched on yet, it's one of the first games of the night, is the Braves and Reds. You got two teams on massive winning streaks, obviously. Cincinnati, 11 straight wins and at home. The number that I'm drawn to, and it's a decent enough number at -120, is the Reds plus 1.5 on the run line. So obviously if Cincinnati should end up winning the game, great. But if you're just going on the basis of, hey, it's going to be close, I look at the Reds, what they've been doing, what that offense is doing in particular, the fact that, again, this game is in Cincinnati. The Braves offense has been generally very, very good of late, but it's a little up and down. I don't know that I would go so like the 11 is too high for the run total for me. I'm going to stay away from that, but I like the Reds plus 1.5, LaMarca. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, my general thought is if you're going to take a team plus 1.5 runs, you should just take them on the money line, right? You're talking a real massive jump from -120 to plus 130. And the only outcome that doesn't cover you for is if they lose exactly by 1 run, which, while that happens, of course, it's to me, you're paying 50 cents of juice for that outcome is too much. So I would just bet the Reds as opposed to taking them plus 1.5 runs. But I probably lean towards the Braves in this matchup. The Reds are a great story. I kind of have talked about this a couple of times. Like, everyone loves the team that nothing was expected of, who calls up all the young kids and all of a sudden they start ripping off games. Kind of very similar to how Baltimore did down the stretch last year. And I think that, teams like that tend to become overvalued. So, the Braves might be the best team in the league. And, they don't have one of their aces on the mound, but Smith Shawver has pitched to a 2.03 ERA this season, 2.64 xERA. Like, I'm probably just taking the Braves if I'm betting this game, but I don't think that it's like a huge advantage one way or the other.
So I'll start with you on this one, Jeff, because I know LaMarca is not really a run line guy to begin with. Obviously, just the variance, the unpredictability of it. I get it. Like, he's not alone in feeling this way. But if I'm looking at VSiN and some of the DraftKings Sportsbook betting numbers for tonight, the Rays, 92% of the bets on the run line. The Blue Jays, 90% of the bets on the run line. The Padres, 88% of the bets on the run line. The reason, the common denominator, is obviously betting any of these teams on the money line, there's absolutely no value whatsoever. So to attempt to get any value at all, you're looking for these teams to win by multiple runs. But could I convince you to do it?
So, I mean, value is a relative term. Just because a team is minus 200 doesn't mean they're not. It's not there's no value on the line, right? Like, if they should be minus 300 and they're minus 200,
yeah,
a lot of value. It's just people just don't like betting those numbers. They don't like putting it. So, I mean, to me, it's just, I mean, I kind of agree with LaMarca in this spot as well. Like, I would rather just, like, up your unit size or bet more on a money line bet. But it really just comes, each bet is just individual. I mean, if you think there's value on the run line, you can definitely bet the run line. That's no problem. If you're going to chase a run line, like, again, I would be you're looking at spots where you think there's a good chance that, like, the offense could just explode. The starting pitcher could implode on the other side. Like, we brought up the Mariners offense. Maybe Cincinnati is coming in a little bit overvalued. But looking for spots like that. So just in general, from a betting perspective, like, don't ever be afraid to take like a short line on a favorite. I mean, if you think that team's in a really good spot, you think like a minus 180 line or should be like minus 250, take the minus 180. You don't need to take the run line just because it's a better number. I mean, you make money in betting by just upping your winning percentage as much as you do by taking winning bets at like plus 200 or whatever. I mean, if all you do is bet plus 200 or plus 150 lines and you win at like a 30% rate,
sure,
it's still no good. So, that's my take on it. I don't really bet the run line in baseball very often, to be honest. Probably do it a little bit more in hockey just because I know the sport a little bit more, but
yeah. Are you someone that in baseball gets into, is it more or less money line bets, or do you look at run lines? Do you look at team totals? Do you look at props, or you just kind of keep it simple for yourself because, like you said, it's not your number one sport?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll probably bet a little bit more variety in the summer, but for right now, I just look at the money line. Keep it really simple. When you keep it simple too, it honestly makes your life easier. I get in trouble because I look at everything and then I just fake myself out of the easy bet, which is just to like take the shorter line on the money line. It's just the simpler you keep betting, man, usually the easier it is.
Yeah, I will say of those games that you mentioned, the Blue Jays scare me just because Chris Bassett has kind of gotten shelled his last two starts. And the Athletics are a team that can score runs. They're not not quite as good against right-handed pitching as they are against southpaws, but that would be the one that would scare me the most. I think that if you're looking for a big favorite, like, I wouldn't argue too much if you wanted to play the Padres on the run line tonight, just because Patrick Corbin is an absolute gas can and the Padres destroy right-handed pitching. But I would pose you this question. If the Padres are going to cover the run line, right? What do you think, like, how many runs do you feel like they need to score to cover the run line?
How many runs do I feel like they need to score? I mean, I would say probably 5.
Okay. I would say maybe even more than that, right? You're looking for more offense than that. So you could take a combo bet. You could go Padres win over 8.5, and that pays plus 155 as opposed to laying minus 140 on the run line. So that's why I don't love the run line. I'm with Jeff. I think if you like a bet enough to take it on the run line, you should just consider it on the money line. But there are some ways you can get creative if you are like opposed to laying that much juice.
And there's always, you bring up a good point with like the same game parlay stuff. Like, I mean, obviously same game parlays, they get dicey with the odds when you're building big, but if you really like a money line, I mean, certainly if you like another prop with it or something, I mean, there's sometimes can be pretty good combo bets like that as well.
Yeah, sometimes what I like to do is, especially if it's a team I like and a matchup I like, and depending who the starters are, obviously, I like to attack the first fives and maybe first five run line. But for all three of these games that I mentioned, the first five run line is still -1.5. It's not half a run. So there's, you need not only the multiple run lead, you need it faster. So that is something that in this case I stayed away from. Lamarck, I'm curious because selfishly, I'm curious because this is one of my bigger bets that I have already placed for tonight. The Rangers money line in New York against the Yankees. This is a game that I like. I like the Rangers. I like the way that Dunning is throwing on the mound right now. Am I throwing my money away, or do you support my bet?
No, I like that one. I've thought about the Rangers quite a bit today. I'm not super bullish on Dane Dunning. He's been okay, right? He's got a 2.78 ERA, which is really good, but he's got a 5.07 xERA. So I think, the real outcome for him is probably somewhere in as like a mid-4s ERA type of guy. And considering how uninspiring this Yankees lineup is without Aaron Judge, I think a pitcher of that caliber can certainly have success in this matchup. And then on the other side, you've got Clark Schmidt for the Yankees, who is not a great pitcher in his own right. He's got a mid-4s ERA, probably pretty comparable to Dunning, all things considered. But the Rangers offense is amazing, and they're firing on all cylinders at the moment. So I've considered them as well. It does look like the Rangers are getting a little bit of sharp activity. So I think that's a good call by you, Kaufman. A rare sharp take by Adam Kaufman.
Rare W. On the last slate. Wow. Way to go, pal.
Look at him light up like a Christmas tree.
No, I'm just hoping it's actually a W, because it doesn't really matter what we say. What matters is what the reality is about like 4 or 5 hours from now. That will determine whether or not this was a good take or not. In the interest of time, because we only have about 10 minutes, we will get to basketball. But first, what have you seen here on day 2 of the Travelers, Jeff? Anything jumping out at you?
Like 30 under?
Yeah. Birdies is what I've seen. Too many of them. I mean, look, this course is super simple. I mean, it's been a weird week. Like a lot of the sort of mid-tier guys that people like Colin Morikawa, didn't start out well, but some, just big rebounds today by a lot of them. Like Rory's in at 8, even Hovland got in at 8. Hideki had a really nice round. Justin Thomas came to life. I mean, this is always going to be a variable event because it's just such an easy course, and hot putters like Denny McCarthy, Eric Cole, even Ches Reavie. I mean, got Zach Blair in T5 right now. I mean, you guys probably don't even know who Zach Blair is, but he hits it like 280, and he's just a very good short iron player and putter. And on this course, he can light it up. He shot 265s to open. So, yeah, some of these guys are going to tighten up. The greens get a little faster. It's always tougher on Sunday when you're going out late in the afternoon with a lead. But right now, it's just a wide open event. I like the spot for Adam Scott and Rory right now. But there are names back here who could still make a move. I think Minwoo Lee is kind of interesting. Just looking back, even Scotty Scheffler and Tom Kim at 7 under. Those guys are still they're super live. They are. I know they're 8 shots back, but like we have seen guys come from 6 shots back on Sunday to win this event. Bubba did it and shot 62. You're going to see some really low scores by the chasers on Sunday. So it's not an event where you look anywhere near the top to these no names right now. If anything, you're looking at the big guns and seeing what can I get on Scheffler. What could I get on maybe like a Rory or something like that? And maybe even some other names. I like Adam Scott. I think Adam Scott got in at a reasonable number today. I loved him pre-event, and he's still at a decent number. So, that's kind of where I'm looking. Certainly not looking towards like Denny McCarthy at plus 240 or something right now.
Well, so I was going to ask
you my degenerate top 10 play of the week.
It hit last week, so let's have it.
I did. Eckroat, my man, came through with a big 5 under par on Sunday to get to a share of 10th. So it wasn't a full, top 10. But I'm going this week with Ludwig Aberg.
There you go.
I know, Jeff, I don't have to tell you about this guy. He is a young stud. 2-time collegiate player of the year. Only other 2-time collegiate player of the year. Do you know who it is, Jeff?
I actually don't.
It's John Rahm.
John Rahm. There you go.
Pretty good company for my man, Mr. Aberg. And he's tied for 10th right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I get there's a lot of tournament left, and the tie for 10 is like really a lot of golfers at the moment. But I don't think he has to play like out of his mind over the weekend to cash this bet. And you can get him to the top 10 at plus 360. The only reason he's priced like this is there's just not a lot of name value with him at the moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the other thing is like Aberg has his full card because he graduated from like the new PGA Tour university. So it's not like he's playing with a ton of pressure right now. Like he's just going out and freewheeling. So he's really good. Like LaMarcus said, he's not as consistent tee to green as some of the other top players yet, but this is a really easy course. And he has shown, I mean, every event, I believe he started this year on the PGA has made the cut. Yeah, I actually really like that call. That's probably the guy. I mean, plus 360. Yeah, Tom Kim is at plus 300. That'd probably be the other name I look at in that range, those two guys. But, those two would be my favorite. Just looking briefly here at the odds. Absolutely.
In our last few minutes, LaMarca, NBA draft last night. Obviously, we talked yesterday about some of the odds movement, and will Scoot go number 2? Will Miller go number 2? And reporting messing up all the numbers and all of that stuff. Wemby, obviously, as we all knew, went number 1. I'll be honest, I thought it was generally a pretty boring draft, at least as a television product for sure. But my selfish fascination was just watching Brad Stevens go all Bill Belichick and the Celtics trading down 4 times within the draft to stockpile.
One thing that you know about the NBA draft, it's that there's tons of vet talent available late.
Yeah, let's stockpile those future second rounders. What stood out from you last night?
I mean, I think the big takeaway, the big talking point was Cam Whitmore falling to 20. He was a guy that had been mocked inside the top 5 for a lot of the draft process, but you started to hear concerns about his medical and then also about like his work ethic and not showing up to these meetings and stuff and putting forth the type of effort that the teams were necessarily looking for. So it's going to be interesting to see what becomes of him. But, if he lives up to the type of talent that he has, the Rockets got 2 potential impact players with him and Amin Thompson. So interesting draft for them for sure. I mean, they continue to just stockpile these young freak athletes. Like Jalen Green now is like just an average athlete for this team, which is kind of a scary thought. But like you mentioned, not a lot of surprises, not a lot of trade activity. We saw really just 2 trades where teams moved up like 1 or 2 spots. None of the big names that were rumored to be available have been moved yet. We'll see if something happens with Damian Lillard now that Scoot Henderson is in Portland. And then, the other like macro takeaway is just the kind of the continued unimportance of the traditional center position.
Mm-hmm.
The UConn big man, Adama Sanogo, dominated in the NCAA tournament last year, didn't even get drafted in the second round. So a lot of guys like that, older, back to the basket, traditional big men, they continue to just lose value year after year after year. So ultimately, I think it was a pretty predictable night how things went overall. And, we'll see how these kids develop. I don't like to go super heavy into winners and losers because we really don't know. We're just guessing. But the only team I feel confident in saying is a winner is Victor Wembanyama's team, the Spurs. And I could have told you that 3 months ago, basically.
Do you have a lean on that end on Rookie of the Year? Obviously, the odds are up on DraftKings Sportsbook. Wemby is expectedly the favorite. Scoot Henderson, who went 3rd, is 2nd. Brandon Miller, who went 2nd, is 4th. And what's interesting is that Chet Holmgren, because he didn't play all of last year due to his injury, is just a part of this conversation in general, and he has the 3rd best odds.
I could not be higher on Wembanyama, so I'm just betting him. I'm probably going to have exposure on the Spurs to make the playoffs. Like, I think that the ceiling on this kid is he's the best player in the NBA within like 3 years. And it's not unheard of for a rookie to come in and just completely turn a team around. We saw LeBron pretty quickly lead the Cavaliers to success. Not necessarily, a championship, but I think with 10 teams now, either in the playoffs or in the play-in tournament, I don't think it's that much of an unrealistic expectation to say that the Spurs can, at least contend for one of the back end play-in spots in year one.
All right, guys. Well, end of an era. We've reached the end of the show. On to whatever's next. I can tell you there will be Madden simulations next, which come your way in about 5-6 minutes. The virtual Packers, who may or may not still have Aaron Rodgers in the game at this point, against the virtual Niners, the team that Brendan Glasheen is still thinking about. Later on tonight, Jets, Jaguars, Browns, and Cardinals as well. Thanks to everyone who has been part of this program, not only producer Eamon and technical director Cody today, and obviously you guys, Jeff and Lamarca, but everyone, it would take way too long to name everybody. We've been doing this show for a couple of years, but thanks to everyone on behalf of everyone who was part of this, just a fun program Monday through Friday called The Slate. Maybe, just maybe, we'll be back in the future in some other version. I'm Adam Kaufman. Guys, thank you. Viewers, thank you. We'll talk to you again Monday.